Hello, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. So, how are you guys today? I hope you will always be fulfilled with happiness and stay healthy and be strong in this pandemic year. And let me introduce myself. My name is Fatima Iza Aulia. I'm from Mathematics Education from 2080 U class from Universitas Negeri Surabaya. And this time I will try to we will discuss about the journal with the title Development of Education Comics Based Realistic Mathematics Education on Fraction Material. It was made by Arika Chelsea Puji-Lestari and Rosalina Ekawati. They are from Universitas Negeri Surabaya. It was uploaded on Jurnal Riset Pendidikan dan Inovasi Pembelajaran Matematika in 2019. So, comics. Let me tell you first about comics. Comics are one of the readings that are liked and desirable, not only for children but also adults, because the story and characters in comics are very interesting. MacLeod defined comics as image and other symbols that are positioned side by side in certain order, aiming to provide information and achieve aesthetic beauty response from the reader. So comic basically is a story that contains picture and greeting balloons in side by side and sequential box that aims to entertain the reader. Also, many teachers use comics as potential education medium. It is used to increase students' interest in academics material because children tend to like image than just a text. So the use of these educational comics is to develop a constructivist-based learning environment, which is an environment that allows students to build their own knowledge. It can be concluded that educational comics is a reading that is used for foster students' interest, motivation, and imaginations in learning material. It can also overcome students' learning difficulties, such as memorizing numbers, letters, formulas, and so on. And then we will talk about RME. What is RME? RME stands for Realistic Mathematics Education. It is a learning theory that connected mathematics theory to our daily life. So basically, mathematics must be connected significantly with the context of everyday life. And then most for junior high school students have difficulty in understanding mathematics material, such in fraction. So what is actually fraction? So the numbers can be called as fractional numbers when the numbers can be expressed as P is divided by Q, with P and Q are integers and Q is not equal to 0. So let's call 1 is divided by 2. It is also a fractional numbers because 1 and 2 are integers and 2 is not equal to 0. So the number P is called the numerator and Q number is called the denominator. So fraction is mostly become the material that students do not understand because they can't really express fraction in daily life, but it is actually very useful. There are also some reasons that students tend so hard to understand fraction because in submaterial of fraction, that is addition of fractions, the numbers cannot be directly added, but the denominator must be added first. So it sometimes confuse students. Yeah, based on the explanation, my explanation, and this journal said that this research aim was to describe how the process of development of RME-based educational comics on fraction material and how is the result of development of RME-based education comics measured by three aspects that are validity, practicality, and effectiveness. So this journal, this research, we use ADDIE method, which stands for analysis, design, development, implementation, and the last one is evaluation. So the first one, analysis. We first have to analyze what has need for this educational comics. We have to identify also the technology that we will be used to provide this educational comic, and how's the curriculum that used by the students, so it will be suited for national curriculum. The next steps is design. The first one, we have to read the literature in reference, create the subjects, contents or material, make the storyboard so it can be easily understood by students, and also we will make flow chart, and then we create the instrument. And the third step is development. In this, we will create or build contents and components based on design phrase. So in the second step, we already have the design for the educational comics that we want. And in the third steps for the development is we make the contents. We input the text or the material into the design, and we also make the program of educational comics. And the fourth step, we have implementation. In these steps, we will try the educational comics to be tested by experts first, and then we will try it to the students. And the last one, we have evaluation step. It is to evaluate the effectiveness, the validness, and the practicality of educational comics, and we find the impact of education comics on the teaching and learning process. And the last one, we will identify the change and the modification for future. So this educational comic will be suitable for the learning for later. As I said before, there are three aspects that we will test or we will view in this research. The first one is validity, practicality, and effectiveness. So the first one, validity. So the criteria of expert validation results, if we get the result 0 to 56%, then we can call this educational comics is invalid. If we get 56 to 70%, then this educational comic is less valid, and so on. And for the practicality, it is the criteria made by questionnaire. So we will give the questionnaire also to the students to see the practicality of this educational comment for educational comics. If we get 0 to 20%, then this comic will be very impractical. If we get 2001 to 50%, then it will be impractical, and so on. If we get 81 to 100%, then it will be very practical. And also for the effectiveness, the criteria of effectiveness, if we get more than 70% of KKM, which means the average of students' score in the class or the students that we test, then we will get the category effectiveness. So it means that this educational comics is effective for the learning. So we have tested it to 5 students for 7th grade junior high school in Surabaya, and it shows that 100% for practical and effectiveness, and then get 77.5% for the validness. So it means that the practicality of this RME based educational comics has a very practical criteria according to the students, and for the validness, this educational comics based on RME develop, get a valid criteria, and the effectiveness of educational comics through effective learning outcomes to increase students' learning outcomes. So from these three categories, that we can say that this educational comics can be said to be a good learning for students. So that's all for today. Leave a comment if you have some question to ask about. So see you guys in the next time. Bye.